Hello everybody, I am Jerry Ross, the GeneaVlogger, and on today's vlog, I will be starting a new series where I will show you the steps I take when conducting genealogy research by doing actual research on the family trees of other YouTubers. So we have these three, but now we know that his father Joseph was here before him, so now we kind of want to just do the same exact thing, but with his father. And we'll also want to do this in a way where maybe we'll be able to confirm both of his parents. So now we're going to go to his father, and we're going to see, are there any hints? So for Jacob, we did the three things we wanted to do. We did the hints first, then we just did we skipped the general search. We just did a research because we got that name from the naturalization. So now looking at Joseph's hints, we see that there are other trees, which sometimes people, that's what they'll do, is they'll go and look at other trees, and you can do that where you can look at other trees, look at what documents do they have pulled up, do you think their tree is correct, and then you can add it. Unfortunately, some people will just go in, just add whatever they find. And then there's other options too. So we're kind of doing the same thing that we were doing before. We want to try to find a naturalization. We want to try to find a manifest. And then we want to see, does he have a draft record? I don't think he's going to have a draft record because he was born in 1866. And I don't remember the exact dates of when you had to be born for the draft, but for anyone in 1866, when the draft happened for World War I, they would have been in their 50s. So I think he probably would have been outside of it, but not for sure. So we have some random different records. We have a death record, a couple of different death records, and we see that they all seem to be for Joseph. His death is March 9th, 1921. And then we see there's a find a grave. So personally, I like to go to the find a grave. So we're going to take a look at that. It's going to pull it up, and we'll look at that. There's an actual grave. And this is probably why we have the name of his father and why we have the name of his wife's father. So let's click on that and let's take a quick look. So this is even better because this one actually has the photo. So now Sam has a photo of, this is his second great-grandfather, and a photo of his second great-grandmother. And these are on the actual gravestone. So we can see this gravestone pulled up. We have the name of Jacob's mother. So we have Bessie. Now, I can read Hebrew okay, but not the greatest. But I know that Sam reads Hebrew really well because he lives in Israel, I'm pretty sure. So we can see that we have the parents' names. And so for Bessie, we can see that her father is Yonah. And then for Joseph, we see that his father is Yaakov Yehuda. So what Sam had in his tree just showed Joseph's father as Jacob, but here we actually have a much more nuanced name, his full Hebrew name, Yaakov Yehuda, which means that now when we look at records back in the towns of origin, the area of origin, we have a bit more to work off of. So clicking out of that, we're going ahead and we're going to add that information because that is useful. And technically when I do my research, I'm not going through and just kind of choosing specifically. I'm going through and I'm adding every single record that I can prove is definitely connected. But that's just going to take forever if I'm going to do that in here. So I'm going to do that on my own time, but I'm going to show you all kind of how to just do it. So we're going to do that same thing. Now here, luckily, it's actually realizing, yes, this is the same person. I'm going to save her name as an alternative. Everything's basically the same except the burial we didn't have. Save to the tree, and now we've got a little bit more. But when we look at all this other information, I'm just going to kind of just do a quick click through and review. And so we see Joseph Aronow, retired peddler, his father, Jacob Aronow, no name for the mother, wife's name's Bessie. And we look through some more, and we're not really finding much new information. These are all just indexes of really the same records. So now let's see what kind of documentation's on his wife, because his wife lived for 27 more years, and there might be some other things that have more information. So we're going to look at her hints, and we see we have some census records, and that's it. But these census records could be helpful because we don't know when she immigrated. We know that it was before her son Jacob. So when we pull this up, we can take a look and we see that she's living with her daughter and her son-in-law. Sometimes I will point out, you see it says mother, but it's not Abraham's mother, it's Anna's mother. But we can look over and we get all sorts of different information. We see that they were married at the age of 21 and 19, and we see that whether or not they attended school, if they read or write, where they were born. And then we see for Bessie that WD, that means widowed. So obviously 1930, we know that her husband Joseph died in the 20s. So when we go over, we will see that we have an immigration year, and this actually is just unknown, I believe, UN, which is unfortunate because now we don't have a year to really look at. There's not much other information in here for her. And I know for 1940, unless she was one of the people that was chosen, we're not really going to get any information on her. So we're just going to take a look and we're going to see what's going on here. All right, so it's not highlighting for some reason, but here we have the family household. We see Bessie, and we see she's not one of the chosen ones. So you can see this person, number 14, is chosen, and this person, number 28, is chosen. 29, that's right. So we can still just kind of take a quick look, and we see that this X that indicates that it's Sarah who's giving the information, so Bessie's daughter. That's why Bessie's coming up as her mother, because she said, oh, that's my mom. A lot of the same information. Okay, yeah. So unfortunately, we're not really getting anything new with this documentation. So what we want to do now is we want to do some researching. So I'm looking back at Joseph's page. I pull up the hints every once in a while just because sometimes new hints will pop up when you add different things. Nothing new. But we just want to kind of make sure, okay, we know Joseph was living in Briansk, died in Illinois in 1921. We know by 1914 he was already living in Chicago because that's when his son came. So we're going to be wanting to look for him in the 1920 census because we don't have him in the 1920 census and we don't have his wife. So we're going to do just kind of a general search. Now, the 1920 census is the kind of big thing we want to look for, or it's one of the big things we want to look for because hopefully that'll have the immigration record. But we're also wanting to see, can we pull up anything else related to him? So this is where that searching versus researching comes in, where we're just going to do some sort of genericness. So we're going to look up Joseph Aronow, and we're going to play around with these exact similar in a bit. And now birth date, we had about 1859. So I'm going to say 1860 just to keep it even, but I'm going to have a 5-year gap. So that's plus or 5 years. So that means they're looking for any Joseph Aronow born between 1855 and 1865. Now, what we also want to do is we want to look at these different options. Now, arrival, departure, we would focus on if, we had the date, but we're just going to do any event, and we're going to put in Chicago. You could put it right there. I don't know why I had to type it out like that. And I will do county and adjacent counties first, and then I'll go to state. Just because with county and adjacent counties, you never know if they were doing something nearby. And as well, it just kind of gives you a little bit of leeway. And then we'll look at state. And here we see we pull up absolutely nothing. So now we're going to try to make the names a little bit more broad. So I start with the first name, Joseph, nothing. Start with the surname, nothing. And this is where the idea of search comes in. It's just like doing Google searches. You're just kind of like broadening it. So we still have nothing. So now let's just go to the state. So now we're getting a few things, and not really a whole lot. We're getting some people born in Illinois, so nothing's matching up. So now what I want to do is I'm actually going to take out the birth year. And for the event year, I'm going to put in 1920, or actually I'll do 1915, and I'm going to do 10 years. But I'm also going to add that his birthplace was Russia. So it's just, when it comes to searching, it's just manipulating these terms to try to fit what you're looking for and try to make it unique enough that you'll pull up what you need, but broad enough that it can give you some options. So now we're going to do a search, see does this pull up anything. And okay, now we're getting some more stuff. So we have the birth record for Joseph. We've already seen that. We see a draft record. This is for Oscar Aronow. So this was the son who was born in Russia. And we see, yeah, born in Russia. But boom, look at that. 1920 Joseph Aronow. So we see his wife Fanny, daughter Lillian, daughter Flora. Probably not him. It's not matching up. But then we go down, we see we have some naturalization indexes. So when you have the naturalization indexes, usually you can go not much further and you'll find what you're actually looking for. Now we can tell pretty much right off the bat that this is not going to be our correct Joseph, because if we look, we have a birth year of 1881, and that really is not going to match up. So we're going to keep looking through and see, can we find anything else that might match up? And unfortunately, we really don't. Now, when it comes to the search part, you spend a lot of time manipulating these searches, especially for these really difficult ones, because you are trying to be a little bit broad in what you're finding while also being specific. So now one thing I'm going to try is I'm going to try using the spouse. So we know she's called Bessie. We're going to keep that exact. We're going to keep this in Chicago. And when we do the search, we're actually going to make it as broad as the surname will go. So we have things we've already seen. Okay, that's right. But maybe something's off with the surname, and that's why we're not finding it in the census. And there we see Joseph Aronow. And that's another thing you can try. You can try doing the different spellings. So we're going to take a look. And we notice that Rockwell Street, we see immigration year 1909, Bessie Aronow, naturalization status, papers submitted, birth year 1861, so that's all seeming to match up. And then we're taking a look and we see that there is a border. We have some good information. We see that we have naturalization papers submitted, Russian, Yiddish, nothing super special. We could technically look into this border because sometimes borders will have some sort of important connection. But this is looking like it could be them, and this is giving us immigration years, 1909 and 1910. So going back, we're going to look through and see, did we get anything else? And looking at this, we see that the surnames start getting all over the place. Warren, Aaron, Ahern. So we have that Aronow. And so now that we have that date, now we want to look for a Joseph Aronow who arrived in 1909. So I'm actually going to keep it as Aronow, very broad. I'm going to take out the location. I'm going to take out the spouse, and I'm going to make the arrival 1909. Now, another trick is you could also do departure. And then departure will look for departure manifest, which may sometimes have other information. So we're getting a couple of different things all over the place. So let's make the surname a little bit more exact. We get nothing that really seems to be matching up. So now let's do a little change. So still nothing really coming in. We got that to come up. So at this point, we have a pretty good tree. We haven't expanded anything from what we were given, but we have discovered some very important things and some very interesting things as well. But from here and in the next episode, what we're going to do is we're going to start looking into the available records from Bryansk, which is where Starodub and Miglin are in. And again, I apologize for my pronunciations. And we're going to look what documentation is available, and we're going to try to see, can we find anything that might be from the Aronow family? Well, thank you so much for checking out this video. I do hope that you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You can also click right about here if you'd like to subscribe. It is completely free to do so. And if you'd like to get early access to my content, or even more, get access to exclusive content, be sure to become a patron of mine on Patreon, which I'll be linking down below. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at GeneaVlogger. I'm the GeneaVlogger. See you in my next video.